Hello, William Lyon Mackenzie. It's an honor for me to interview such an amazing representative of the Canadian history. Let's start with the questions. When were you born and where? I was born in December 17 in 1874 in Berlin, Kitchener, Ontario. What university did you go to and what did you study? I graduated from University of Toronto in 1895 and studied economics at Chicago in Harvard. What did you do after graduating university? In 1900s, I became Canada's first Deputy Minister of Labor. My interest in labor coincided with an expansion in manufacturing and increasing tension within industrial relations. How did you act as Deputy Minister of Labor and what were your actions? I acted as conciliator in a number of strikes and was the main influence behind the Industrial Disputes Investigation Act of 1907, which was a landmark piece of legislation which delayed strikes or lockouts in public utilities or mines until a conciliation board achieved a settlement or punished a report. When were you elected? I was elected in 1908 in North York as a Liberal and in 1909 entered Sir Wilfrid Laurier's cabinet as Minister of Labour. When were you defeated? I was defeated in the 1911 federal election and 1917 conscription election. What is your book Industry and Humanity about? I outlined my view that there were four parties to industry: the capital, management, labor, and society, and that the government, acting on behalf of society, had an interest in the peaceful resolution of industrial disputes. When you became a Liberal Party leader, what problem did you face? When I was chosen as Laurier's successor as leader of the Liberal Party, it was deeply divided by Quebec's total opposition to conscription and the agrarian revolt in Ontario and the prairies. What did you do when you became Liberal leader in 1919? I paid closer attention to the prairies. I also envisioned the pioneers, hardworking individuals who live close to nature and to God. I fought for the people's interest. When did you retire? I retired on January 20th, 1948. I called on the Liberal Party to hold its first national convention since 1919 to choose a new leader. What was your legacy? Along with Wilfrid Laurier, I was the only other Canadian Prime Minister to be in office during the reigns of three Canadian monarchs. I was ranked as the greatest Canadian Prime Minister by a survey of Canadian historians. And lastly, I was named a person of national historic significance in 1968. Now, there's a topic of your life that we all want to know about. Could you tell us about your family? My father was a lawyer with a struggling practice in a small city and never enjoyed financial security. My parents lived a life of shabby gentility, employing servants and tutors they could scarcely afford. Although their financial situation improved somewhat following a move to Toronto around 1890, where I lived with them for several years in a duplex located in a then respectable neighborhood, Beverly Street, while studying at the University of Toronto. What did you do after your loss? After my loss, I stayed as an opposition leader, where it was my policy to refrain from offering advice or alternative policies. Indeed, my policy preferences were not much different from Bennett's, and I let the conservative government have its way. So I gave the impression of sympathy with progressive and liberal causes. I had no enthusiasm for the New Deal. Well, that's the end of the interview. We thank you so much for being here today and talking to us about your life. It was truly a pleasure to have the first mayor of Toronto and leader of the rebellions of 1837 here with us today. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.